apart, then like everything will fall apart, and that they had to make choices. And so the choice they made was to pull out of saving the Romulans. And Picard says, if you ignore me again, it's going to be to your own peril. You're at risk. And she's like, there's no risk here. And she then tells him, this is no longer your house. She says, do what you do best and go home. And Picard leaves, and you could see in his face, he is angry. He's furious. He's completely disillusioned to what Starfleet has become. So it's a pretty powerful scene here in the episode. I think one of the most powerful, because it really shows how Picard. This was like the last string, I would say, that was holding him to Starfleet, and it's gone now. It's been cut, and we know now going forward, because we've seen the trailers and all that, he's gonna get his own crew together, and he's not gonna go through Starfleet at all. He is not gonna deal with them. And this is kind of intriguing because we've always seen Jean-Luc Picard in the context of Starfleet, and now we see him working outside of Starfleet. So this, I think, going forward is going to be really interesting to see what he does. So our next scene, we come back to the artifact, and we find out that the new Romulan government is called the Romulan Free State. They are operating this Borg Artifact Research Institute. That's what this cube is called. We do see some scenes from the trailer here. One of them is a sign that says, this facility has gone 5,843 days without an assimilation. That's about 16 years.
I
so
mean,
they've had
that's
this.
supposed to be Earth days. Sorry.
Let's just assume they're 24-hour regular Earth days. We'll just assume. Because I have no other point of reference, so we're gonna have to assume that they're 24-hour Earth days. That's 16 years if there was never an interruption. If there was an interruption, it had to start again from zero, then they've had the cube longer than 16 years. But they've had that cube for at least 16 years. So even before the events of blowing up the shipyards, they've had this cube. So here, Soji is talking to this basically new hire. They have to attend like this like briefing where they're being told they're going into the gray zone where there could be still some drones who are kind of active. That if their gradient badge starts to blink green, they should run. And I said, I think we'll definitely see that happen this season, because I don't think you can ever really trust a depowered Borg. So then Narek kind of joins this conversation, and he says that this cube had undergone a submatrix collapse, and that its connection to the Borg collective was severed. As far as the Borg collective is concerned, this ship is a graveyard. So another reference to death here in this episode. He basically says, in a graveyard, you've got those who feed on the dead, you've got ghosts, and then you've got those who believe in resurrection, and that would be Daj, apparently. And she's going to be doing some work. He wants to observe her. She's like, well, you're going to need permission from the director. And he's like, actually, I don't, though. So he apparently is pretty high up, into the point that he could just kind of walk in on this surgery that we're going to talk about later, and he doesn't need anyone's permission. So seems like Narek is pretty high up in the chain of command there.
That girl that Soji talks to, she's like, oh, I didn't know that Romulans could be so hot. And I'm like,
yeah, no one did.
I mean, I'm like, okay, whatever.
We're used to those shoulder pads.
I guess so. And the haircuts,
that's what it is.
You know, they have those like super exact like haircuts and stuff. I guess they just needed messy hair.
I guess so.
They needed day after hair. Anyway, yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny.
So we get a scene now back at Chateau Picard. We've got Dr. Agnes Girardi is there. She's looking through some of Picard's books. She picks up Isaac Asimov's The Complete Robot. And he's like, oh, you have a taste for the classics. And then Picard says, I never cared for sci-fi. I guess I just don't get it. And that is a very funny Easter egg, because that famously Patrick Stewart has said that many times, that he's not really a science fiction fan. He doesn't really understand the genre, which is hilarious that he's part of the biggest science fiction show, arguably, that's out there right now.
And for the character to say it, it's really hilarious because it's like they live in sci-fi.
They live in the future where science fiction is not fiction anymore. Fact. It's a science fact, and so it's quite funny. So he's got tea for her. She says she prefers Earl Grey, and Picard's like, I knew there was something I liked about you. And she sends him all the data on Maddox that has not been sort of like redacted by the government. They talk a little bit about Data and Maddox being sort of friends, and how Maddox, if he was going to build a robot, or excuse me, an android, he would do it in the form of this painting that Data did called Daughter. And they talk a little bit about Daj's credentials when she applied to the Daystrom Institute. Well, it seems like Daj was a little too perfect, and that her identity seemed to have been built only about 3 years ago. We presume it's by Maddox, but the question is why? And then, of course, the real question is, where is the other android? Where's the twin? Now, of course, we know where she is, but Picard does not know where she is.
I was wondering what if she'd been an android longer, but then she had been wiped and then restarted?
Also a possibility. Also a possibility. You can't count that out. She could have been active way longer and had her memory wiped. Yeah, absolutely.
I got a question for you too. Last episode, you guys had a theory that she was still alive. Do you guys still believe that?
I personally don't. I have. Go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, I was basically gonna say the same thing. I mean, I don't know what else you were gonna say, but it's like I kind of don't. I don't know. I don't know what can happen in this series, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, my theory was last week that the explosion from the gun could have been cover for them to beam her away, because the goal was to kidnap her, not to kill her. But in a scene coming up, which we'll talk about in a minute, we find out that basically they did not mean to kill her. They did kill her, though. Yeah. They botched it. And they've basically all but confirmed that Daj is dead, which to me is still a little surprising, because I felt like they put so much emphasis on her in the trailers and the building up to this. And I guess, too, that was probably trickery to keep us from knowing that there was a second one out there that looked just like her. So I if it is true that she is really dead, which it seems to be, I am a little disappointed by that, to be honest. I would have liked for her to still be alive somewhere. But unless
do you think that she could provide for us that the twin can't? I mean, I don't know. Like, do you think that she has, a different personality? I mean, obviously she's going to have a different personality than her twin sister. But
I mean, I loved the idea of like Daj being this lost person who like showed up out of nowhere at Chateau Picard. I don't know who you are, but I know I can trust you. I mean, that was so intriguing to me. Because it was like, who is she to Picard? And granted, that was like the gateway drug that got us into this show. But it seems like the real story is going to be about Soji.
Yeah, you're right. It is a weird bait and switch if you think about the whole year that we had to build up to this, that we all talked about who's this girl that needs his help and everything, and then it's just, I mean, I don't know. I think either they're just banking on her twin sister just filling that same void, like it's the same. They're just considered the same person, but like you said, it's like. She sounded like she needed a lot of help, and like she went to Picard, whereas her sister doesn't even know who Picard is, or clearly doesn't even need help right now.
Right? Yeah, it's a bit of a bait and switch. I guess I'll hold off full judgment until I see how it all works out. But like seeing confirmation that Daj is really dead, I was a bit disappointed. In that I did feel like I would have liked her to stick around, but. I mean, I guess the idea is that at some point Soji will be activated as well, and she'll figure out who she is, and maybe she'll have that same thing imprinted in her that if she's in trouble, she goes and finds Picard, so that when he shows up, maybe it'll trigger something in her. We'll have to wait and see, of course, when they meet up.
Steven was saying that, Soji didn't really need any help, but that's because she's so busy trying to help Narek.
And help herself a little bit,
and help
too.
herself, yeah. Just because,
true.
and her job, she's helping people all the time. Like, the way she is, she's like, she's trying to do her job and do all this kind of thing. And I think maybe if she were activated, she might be the same as
Daj.
Daj, yeah. I was like, I can't even remember who's who anymore.
Is there a chance that he's gonna flip? No, right?
Who, Narek?
Yeah. I just get a vibe. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm completely off, but I get a feeling that he's actually gonna fall for her in some way and then join this crusade and break away from his sister.
I mean, that's a little tropey, but it's Star Trek.
Yeah,
I don't,
exactly.
Star Trek is known for following certain tropes, and I'm not against that. But I don't think I'm 100% for that either, to be honest. I don't know if I particularly want to see that. So we jump to back to the artifact. This is the scene with the surgery that we talked about earlier. The Romulan doctor keeps calling them the Nameless. Daj is like, oh, I really hate that, because they're an unknown species doesn't mean they don't have a name. And they do remove the arm implant, and then they remove the ocular implant. And I'm not gonna lie, that was a little hard to watch. It was pretty gooey when they took the ocular implant out.
Yeah, the sounds were the best part.
It was like squishy. It was pretty gross. Yeah. Excellent sound effects.
Thank you. I'm working on that.
And then she does say to him, "You are now free, my friend." In what language, we still don't know, but she says, "You are now free." And we kind of see Narek just creeping and watching her do all this stuff. I think he's definitely observing her, trying to figure her out and all that. So back to Chateau Picard, we get a scene that we have seen in the trailer. Picard takes a little tin out of his desk drawer. In it is his Starfleet communicator. He steps outside and he calls Raffi on it, says, "Don't hang up. It's me, Jean-Luc. I need your help. I need a ship." And we get a nice swell of classic Trek music here. Now we're back at Starfleet headquarters, and here we finally meet Commodore O. And she's getting a report from Admiral Clancy. Admiral Clancy's telling her about her meeting with Picard. And the Commodore's like, "Oh, I thought he was safely mothballed away." She calls him the Hermit of Labar, which I thought was like, wow, that's pretty dramatic. Like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hey, I have a quick question. How many times have we heard the rank Commodore in the show?
Not a ton.
I honestly, I can't remember one. Is it in TGN at all?
We heard it.
It caught me off. I don't even know where it fits. Where does it fit? I don't even know where it goes. Obviously under Admiral, but like above Captain, I don't know.
I think so. We heard there were more Commodores in the original series. There was actually quite a few. There was Commodore Decker, and then there was there was another Commodore who was involved in a trial. That was for the episode The Cage. In TNG, I don't think we get a ton of Commodores. As I understand it, a Commodore is in charge of like a certain sector. Hold on. I'm on Memory Alpha right now.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you with this
no,
one. It caught me off guard. Right. And it's
no
TOS
worries.
has been a very, very long time. I've never done a rewatch of TOS actually, so I probably should do that.
I got you. No worries. So,
yeah.
According to Memory Alpha, which is an excellent website for all Trek fans, so Commodore is a naval rank, as most of these ranks are, adopted by Starfleet. So traditionally, Commodores are the most junior flag officer, or the most senior line officer rank of a naval organization under an admiral, but senior to a captain. Okay. So commodores fall between